wind whipped through the cornfield, a lonely sound that echoed the emptiness inside Sarah. She had always felt a prickle of unease around the old Scarecrow, its tattered clothes and vacant stare a constant source of childhood nightmares. Today, she had decided to confront that fear, a rusty hoe clutched in her trembling hands. As she approached, the Scarecrow loomed larger, its straw stuffing spilling out, a grotesque mockery of a human form. Sarah's bravado faltered. "I'm not afraid," she whispered, but the wind swallowed her words. A soft rustling sound behind her made her spin around. Nothing, just the endless rows of corn, swaying rhythmically. But then it came again, closer this time, a shuffling that sent shivers down her spine. Turning back, she saw it. The Scarecrow's head, once rigidly fixed, now turned slowly, its empty eyes seemingly following her every move. She dropped the hoe. The clang was lost in the wind's howl as she fled, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. She didn't stop running until she reached the safety of her farmhouse, slamming and locking the door behind her. But the image of the Scarecrow's turning head burned in her mind. Weeks passed. Sarah avoided the cornfield, taking long detours to steer clear of its unsettling presence. Yet the fear lingered, clinging to her like a shroud. One evening, driving home, she saw it. The Scarecrow stood in the middle of the road, blocking her path, its arms outstretched, a silent, menacing barrier. She slammed on the brakes, her car skidding to a halt. The Scarecrow remained motionless, a dark silhouette against the fiery sunset. Hesitantly, she eased the car forward. As she drew closer, its head swiveled, empty eyes glowing with an eerie, malevolent light. Sarah screamed, her foot slamming on the accelerator, sending the car screeching backward. Abandoning the vehicle, she ran, lungs burning, legs aching. She didn't look back, but the feeling of being watched, of being hunted, was overwhelming. She reached the town's police station, breathless and terrified. "A Scarecrow alive in the road," she gasped. The officers exchanged skeptical glances. They dismissed her fears, attributing them to an overactive imagination. Sarah left, feeling utterly alone, her terror compounded by their disbelief. She sold her house, leaving behind the cornfield and its horrifying guardian. But the nightmares followed, vivid and relentless. The image of the Scarecrow, its eyes burning with a chilling intelligence, haunted her waking hours. Years later, Sarah still looked over her shoulder, burdened by a constant, gnawing fear. She knew with a chilling certainty that it would find her again. The Scarecrow that came alive would never truly let her go. I had always known my old roommate was a little off. We met in college, thrown together by random housing assignments, and over the years, I learned to ignore his quirks. The biggest one? He slept with a sword. A long, gleaming thing he kept by his bed like a faithful dog. When I asked him about it, he'd just shrug. "Gotta be ready?" he'd say, as if that explained anything. One night, I came back to the apartment late. The place was silent, except for the faint hum of the fridge. I had expected my roommate to be in the living room, playing one of his endless strategy games or sharpening his sword with an unsettling focus. But the place was empty. His door was slightly ajar, just enough for the dim hallway light to bleed into the room. "Hey, you in there?" I asked, pushing the door open. My breath hitched. At first, I thought he was dead. He was lying perfectly still, hands folded over his chest, the sword resting on top of them. But the most disturbing thing? He was inside the bottom half of a wooden bookcase, like a makeshift coffin. He had flipped it on its side, cleared out the shelves, and curled his lanky frame into the hollowed-out space. "What the hell are you doing?" I hissed, stepping closer. His eyes fluttered open, and he exhaled slowly, like someone waking from a deep dream. "I wanted to know what it felt like," he murmured. I frowned. "What?" "To sleep in a casket." His voice was calm, completely at ease, as if this was a normal thing people did. He didn't move, just lay there, his fingers lightly gripping the hilt of the sword. Something about the scene unsettled me more than I could explain. It wasn't just weird, it felt wrong. The way his body fit too well into the bookcase, the eerie way the sword gleamed in the dim light. "You're seriously creeping me out, man," I said. "Get up." He sighed as if I had interrupted something important, but he shifted, the wood creaking beneath him, and sat up. "Did you dream?" I asked before I could stop myself. He tilted his head, considering. "Yes. What about?" A long pause, then a small, unsettling smile. being buried alive. A shiver ran down my spine. I laughed, trying to break the tension. Jesus, man, you need therapy. He grinned, but there was something hollow in his expression. Maybe. For a while, I convinced myself it was just another one of his weird experiments, something to add to his list of eccentricities. But over the next few weeks, I started noticing things. The way he slept more and more in that makeshift coffin, even when he thought I wasn't paying attention. The way he muttered in his sleep, words I couldn't quite catch. The way he started to look different, paler, sharper, his eyes darker, like he wasn't fully there anymore. One night, I woke up to a sound, a dragging noise, slow, deliberate. It took me a second to realize it was coming from his room. I sat up, my heart hammering. The door to his room was open just a crack, and through it I saw him. He was standing in the dark, sword in hand, staring at me. I couldn't see his face clearly, but his eyes caught the faint light from the street outside. They didn't look right. I swallowed hard. "Dude?" He didn't answer, just stood there, gripping the sword like he was waiting for something. I didn't move. After what felt like an eternity, he turned, slow, deliberate, and walked back to his bookcase. He climbed inside, settled in, and laid the sword across his chest. The dragging sound came again as he pulled the bookcase over himself, sealing himself inside. I sat there for a long time, staring at the doorway, my breath tight in my chest. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. A week later, he moved out. No warning, no explanation, just packed up his things and disappeared. The only thing he left behind was the bookcase. It sat there, upright, as if nothing had ever happened. Sometimes I wonder what happened to him, and I hope he's okay.